I've been making a lot of product reviews, but I haven't reviewed the product which was filming me the entire time while I was making more than 500 videos. So today we'll talk about the Panasonic G85 and why I think it's one of the best cameras that I could have got to basically create this channel. And I'll tell you what I actually like about it, what I don't like about it. And I have 2 years of experience, so this is basically the most comprehensive review that I've done for any product, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Let's begin. So how are you doing, my friends? I'm Autodeal, and I've been reviewing gadgets for the past couple of years now on this channel on YouTube. I more than invite you to join the channel by clicking on the red subscribe button down below. This is the Panasonic G85 and I've been using it to record most of my videos on the channel. And today I'll talk about the biggest 5 things that I like about it and some of the things that I wish could have been improved specifically with this model. So let's begin. First of all, we are talking about a mirrorless camera with interchangeable lens. It has a 16 megapixel micro four thirds sensor inside it. That means basically that you're gonna get 16 megapixels photos out of it and also 4K video at 30 frames per second maximum. For me, this was a big deal because I wanted to up my game with 4K videos, while most of the other people I was watching on YouTube that make video reviews of products were still filming in 1080p. When I saw this 2 years ago, I was like, hey, that's my opportunity to switch to 4K. And it actually was, because since then I started recording video reviews only in 4K. I also have all of my lenses over here. Actually, I have most of my lenses because I have one more other lens that's currently filming me, and I hope that in the future I'll make a video review out of that one also. But in the end, as you can see here, every time I needed to film something, I just went out, purchased a lens, and I could do the project. I had many projects that don't revolve around this channel, but something specific that I wanted to capture. For example, this is my 15mm Panasonic Leica Semulux 1.7 f-stop. That means that I can take this anywhere. I can get a wide field of view and an amazing quality photos or videos because obviously the Leica branding on it, and it's just an amazing lens. So all in all, it's one of my favorite lenses, but I also like the 8 to 18, and I'll also make a video of all of these lenses eventually because I've been using all of them. Going back to the Panasonic G85, there are 5 things that I think you should mention, at least in my case, in this review that basically really helped me making videos with this camera. The first one is the fact that we can basically record 4K video, and even with your mobile phone these days you can record 4K video, but it's not gonna be as sharp as what you get off this camera, especially if you have one of the fast lens, for example the 1.725 that's currently recording me, or the 1.715 that's on the camera right now. You're not gonna get good quality video at 4K in low light unless you switch to a camera like this one. You can obviously get a camera with a bigger sensor, but in the end, if you look at the price point, and like always I'm putting pricing and more information in the description below, you'll finally get something here that's not that expensive and can shoot 4K with a fast lens that's also not that expensive. We are talking about the $150 mark for a 25mm 1.7. That's the first lens I got, and I've been using it until this day. It's actually recording me even on my new camera, which I'll talk about soon, which is the Panasonic G85S. So the first thing was 4K video. The second thing is the entire stability mechanism on this camera, and this camera has dual stabilization method that's actually used in 5 axes. That means that basically you'll get a very stable video or sharp photos when you capture photos with this camera. This is because we have a mechanism here that, especially if you have stabilized lens like the 45-150, you'll basically get dual stabilization working here. And Panasonic is one of the only and first camera brands that have this feature in their cameras, and it works really great. Even if you don't have stability in one of your lenses, for example the 8 to 18, you'll still get a very stable video when you record with this camera because of the body stabilization, and you can actually feel this mechanism when the camera is turned off. When you move the camera, you'll feel the sensor stabilization mechanism moving. That's normal, by the way. It scared the hell out of me the first day I got the camera, but then I understood that's part of the deal here, and it still works to this day, 2 years after. So number 3, this is a camera, a mirrorless camera that you can basically switch your lens in. So that means, for example, you can just buy another lens and go capture another moment that you couldn't capture with your older lens. And for me, this was a big deal because I was still recording on cell phones and action cameras, and all the time I thought that something like this doesn't really exist. This was a couple of years ago, but then I moved into this camera world and I was like, hey, I gotta get another lens because I want to create this new project. And this is a big thing here for all of you guys that are just starting up. When you start, get the 25mm 1.7. That's gonna get the most light you can, and it's really cheap. And then start from that lens to anywhere you feel like, whether it's a zoom lens like this cheap 45 to 150. The prices are really low of both of these lenses. And if you have the budget, think about getting the 8 to 18 or obviously the Leica 12 to 60, which I don't have, by the way, because I have the 12 to 60, the kit version, which is not as good as the Leica. Doesn't get enough light for my opinion. So this is the lens I like the least, but in the end I still have the option of buying a new lens and actually using it in the camera. And for me that's a huge deal because for example, if I want to be minimal, I'll just take the 15mm. It works every time for any scenario. It's a 1.7 lens. That means that basically I'll get enough light wherever I am. And I just love this lens, and the 25mm, which is not gonna give you as wide field of view. So it's not usable as much as the 15 in my opinion, but it's hell of a lot cheaper. So start off the 25 because you'll be able to use that in so many scenarios, whether it's for photos for the family or whether it's for actual work, which you're selling to a client, because the bokeh or depth of field that you'll get from the 25 1.7 on these type of sensor is still very good. Even though it's a cropped sensor camera, you'll still get a lot of depth of field, and I've been using it for 2 years for photos for my family, and everybody was like, this is the most professional photos. They felt like it was the most professional photos, even though that's my first DSLR camera. So reason number 4 I really like this camera is the fact that it's totally customizable. One of the things that you'll see here on the back is that we have a function button. We actually have more than one, and we can change these function buttons. So for example, it did come with a specific function, but you can then say, hey, you know what, this one is something I changed. For example, I changed this function from being the function that basically manages the display on my viewfinder or LCD screen to a function that when I press on it basically activates or shut down the Wi-Fi functionality. And I'm gonna talk about the Wi-Fi functionality in a moment because it's amazing, but still I could easily transfer photos and videos to my phone just by a press of a button, one button. So I really like that, and I think that the fact that it's customizable, this is what's gonna basically make you fall in love with this camera. Also, you have the 2 modes over here, the C1 and the C2. These are basically customizable modes. Once you switch to them, you can basically tell the camera what's gonna happen. So for example, if you shoot video 4K in a specific white balance, specific shutter speed, you can set it up to be a C1, and when you switch to it, you'll easily go to that preset, and you can switch back by moving this toggle switch and start recording again if you want to go back to the previous specifications. And you have C1 and C2. On the newer Panasonic cameras, you actually have C3, so you're missing one. But you still get 2, and I managed to use them. I usually actually use the M, or the movie creative mode, video creative mode, as a C1, and then a C1 is actually a second mode for me, and the C2 is the third mode for me. So I use the 3 of these all the time to switch between 4K, 1080p that I have preset before I go and get the job done or record myself or whatever, or record on the studio, for example. I set it as one of these, and then I can easily start recording without messing with any setting. So the fifth and the last is the fact that this whole thing, as you can see, is really small. I mean, you can see that if I take 3 lenses and the camera, that's all I need in terms of space to store them. I mean, you probably want to use some dividers between, but still, this is all it is for 3 lenses, a camera, and another lens on it. So it's really small, and it's also lightweight. The camera itself is weighs at around 400 grams, and the lenses are nothing if you look at the 15 mil. The most, I guess, the bulkiest one would be the 8 to 18, which is this one. But even with that, you can easily vlog and still don't feel like you're breaking apart, especially on the Panasonic G85 and not on the G85, G85S, which are more hefty, and you'll need to carry a lot more weight if you put this on them. So this was basically a setup for me for vlogging also. I took it outside, I held the camera like so with 8mm on a micro four thirds camera. You still get a bit of a crop on 4K, but you get an amazing field of view with high quality and 2.8 f-stop. It's just amazing, even on this crop sensor. I love the fact that this is super portable and I can take it anywhere, that it's super small, it works great. So I talked about the 5 most important things that I can tell you after using this for 2 years. There are some things that are technical that I want to talk about that really helped me while using the camera. First of all, the LCD screen. As you can see, Panasonic was one of the first companies to actually help you rotate the screen to yourself. That means that you can easily vlog or make videos of yourself. If you don't know what vlogging is in 2019, but that means that you can easily record yourself or record your adventures or whatever, and just close it once you're done. There's one thing here, that the mic jack on the G85 is not the best positioned. In the newer cameras it's here on top, but in the G85 you will see that if I actually open up the screen, the mic jack is actually here, so it's in the middle of the screen. It takes around 15 to 20% of this side of the screen. It's usually not a big deal. I've managed to record videos with it while it's hiding the 10 or 20% of the screen, of the side of the screen, but that's something that you should know, and Panasonic fixed it on its newer models. There are 2 4K modes here that you should know about. The first thing is post-focus. So for example, you can actually capture a single image and then choose where do you want the focus to be, which is really useful because you can create one picture that's basically made of many pictures, and you'll have the focus all over the place or just where you want it after you took the photo. Another thing with the 4K video is that it's limitless. Unlike many other cameras, especially ones that were made 2 years ago, you don't have any limits when recording 4K. So if you have a low budget, take a look at the pricing of this camera. I'm putting it in the description of this video below, but this is a really cheap but high quality way of recording in 4K resolution for an unlimited time, because this camera has no limits. I mean, it has 2 limits. The first one is the SD card and the second is the battery on it, but that's still gonna let you record videos for more than an hour in 4K. And I've recorded my lectures that I usually do once or twice a year with this camera just by putting it at the side of the lecture hall, forgetting about it, and going back after 1 hour or more and seeing that my video was recorded. I do have one recommendation here: turn off the image stabilization mechanism, because that's gonna just decrease your battery. If it's on a tripod, you don't need stabilization. One thing that I also want to talk about, and it's actually working while I'm recording this video because I'm using it with the G85S, is that you get a Wi-Fi app that can actually show you what you're recording. It can also enable you to transfer files. So one of the things that I really enjoyed with this camera is the fact that I can actually record and on the fly transfer files to my phone. And these days you can edit videos on your phone, even in 4K, and start editing and publishing them while I'm still in set, while I'm still actually capturing photos or videos. This is just amazing for anyone these days who has to basically have a quick turnout of his files, videos. If you want to publish them on social media, whatever, you'll be able to use this application, which works great. Actually shows you what you're doing. I can even change specifications. For example, I can increase the ISO to 800, bam, or I can just stick with 400 and it works just great by changing it from the phone within the app. So I really like the app. I think it's amazing. It transfers files very easily, very quickly. I've used it a lot. Just one of the best things about the Panasonic ecosystem. So I talked about a bunch of advantages, but one of the things that I don't like about the camera is the fact that I don't have slow motion capabilities, not in 1080p and definitely not in 4K. In 4K, the maximum FPS you'll be able to record is 30 FPS. You can also record in 24 FPS, which is important to say these days because it's not in every camera, but 24 FPS will give you the cinematic look, the one that you are actually getting right now, but you won't be able to get more than that. For example, 30 FPS is the maximum 4K. 1080p is you're going to be able to record in 60 frames per second, not higher than that. That means you can slow it down by around 2 times. That's it. That's not the best, and also that's one of the reasons I actually upgraded to the G85S, which can record in 240 FPS, 240 FPS in 1080p with a crop, but it works great. I've tested it out. I'm very happy with the results, but you don't have that in this camera, and this is something that you should know when you purchase a camera like this. So this was the G85. I have definitely enjoyed this camera. I thought that, you know what, in this channel I've made so many videos, it's time to make one video about the camera that's been with me the entire time and been recording me these 2 amazing years while I was making videos on YouTube. I definitely recommend still this camera to anyone who's making videos for YouTube. The pricing is very low for this camera. Check the description below for more information about it. I hope you enjoyed this video and definitely try or think about subscribing if you want to see my newer gadget reviews, because I have some really cool ones coming up, including the Osmo Mobile 3, which is on its way on the next video that I'll hopefully make. So click on that button to subscribe. Also check out my other reviews over here and this one over here. I hope I'll see you on my future video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.